Hi everyone, Azriel Knight here, and welcome to day 15 of a fortnight of film, a vlogging marathon where I shoot a different role every single day. Now, if this is your first time tuning in, day 15 might seem a little strange because I'm calling it a fortnight of film. But this was a Kickstarter campaign, and a successful one. Successful enough that I reached one of my stretch goals of having the privilege of shooting 3 extra days. So this is bonus day number 1. I'm going to touch a little bit on yesterday, but like I said in the video, I'm not going to wallow it. And after this, yesterday will be referred to as the day that shall not be named. Yesterday was the first flat-out failure, and I was told, oh, there is no failure. Well, the film certainly failed. And I mean, I could laugh about it now, but I was so ticked off. And by the end of it, I was exhausted, not in a good state. Because at the beginning, I did say, I want to shoot the good and the bad and show you the good and the bad. And I've had bad results before, but I haven't had 0 results before. That's a first on camera, is to just have a completely blank, what do I got to show for it? Nothing really. And that's the reason why I structured the episode as such, is just sort of like a quick recap with a quick montage, then the reveal, then me 5 hours later just like, I gotta go to bed, because that's the way the day went. And there's no point in showing any of the footage where I'm like, okay, well, here I'm using the 200mm lens and I'm using this on my light meter and I'm focusing like this and I'm going to bracket here and blah, 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 because none of it turned out. You're not going to see those results anyway. So I thought the best way to do it was to do a quick montage of the day, do the reveal, and I use that term loosely, reveal, and just sort of like, okay, I'm editing it, on to the next one. There are a lot of YouTubers out there, and I would say better YouTubers and more positive people that would be able to just shrug their shoulders and talk about expectations and there is no such thing as failure and stuff like that. And maybe I'm not that guy, at least in the heat of the moment, while it's happening to me, while everything's bearing down on me. I don't know if I'm necessarily that guy. And that is the honest 100% truth. And that might get some dislikes. People don't want to hear pessimism. People don't want to see negativity of any sort, especially this year. This year's been a doozy. But if I'm going to show you the good and the bad, then I'd be lying to you if I gave you some, if I got on some softbox and I gave you some speech about keeping your chin up when these things happen. It would be so disingenuous. So it was way easier for me to show you that I was actually upset, that I just wanted to go to bed and forget about it, and that I didn't want to create some bogus philosophical learning session surrounding it. I took a risk and the developer did not work. And that is the end of it. And while I was hoping for a complete winning streak of having results every single day, that is no longer the reality of the situation. I don't think it tarnishes the marathon as a whole. So remember, the day that shall not be named. Anyway, getting to today's video, I'm going to bring you something very cool. And if you're hearing me say that, very cool, and not another sad montage, then you know you're going to get results today. I just want to clear that up. I've had some serious film donations over the last couple of weeks, and one of those was by a guy named Al on Instagram. He actually donated yesterday's roll as well, the day that shall not be named. And everything that he sent me, just about everything he sent me, was frozen, so I should be able to shoot it at box speed. And today I'm going to be shooting with Fujifilm Neopan 100 SS. Like I said, this was frozen since new. I should be able to shoot it at box speed, and it expired December 2008. As always with 35mm film, I'm going to be shooting with my Nikon FE and my 28-105. This camera has been really fantastic, and I do have some Neopan in medium format, but today is a cold one. It is about -5 Celsius right now. It's kind of snowing a little bit. I believe it's going to snow more later. That's another reason why I didn't choose color today, because there's not a lot of color going around, just a whole bunch of white. Yeah, that's the situation. It's going to be chilly shooting outside today. Yeah, otherwise I would have used my Pentax 6.7, but I don't really believe it's sealed in the same way the Nikon is. I have seen an ad in Popular Photography where mountaineers took Nikon FEs with them on their excursion, and they said they shot with them. They didn't necessarily say it survived, but I guess we'll find out today if that happens. But yeah, nothing to do now but get this camera loaded. Because this film is discontinued, I thought I'd show you guys the unboxing and loading. Thought you might find that interesting. This box is in fantastic condition. I'd almost hate to bust it open, but, you know, gotta happen. Oh, it's a breech, baby. That's very blue. Interesting. Fine grain black and white film Neopan. There we are. Right now it is -14 with the wind chill. If you don't know what wind chill is, well then you must be living somewhere really warm. Think of it like the opposite of humidity. I would say right now I am 1/3 to 1/2 of the way through the roll, and the biggest challenge today is to shoot things that are not things that I've already shot, for one, and second, to stick with the black and white motif in a very colorful neighborhood of the city. So I've been kind of looking for the more grungy stuff, and so far so good, I think. There's a couple of angles too that I hadn't considered before. It's amazing what happens when you look up. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Like shot 15 or 16 or something like that. And I'm kind of heading down every alleyway that I can find. Trying to push myself a bit too. I went through a shopping center that I hadn't been in before. It's like called the Far East Shopping Center or something like that. And I walked through to look for a shot, and I couldn't find a shot. And to be honest with you, I don't know if the film is even fast enough. I've got the 28 to 105. It's got a maximum aperture of f3.5. These are not the weather conditions where you want to be changing lenses. I mean, maybe you'd do it, but I wouldn't do it. That's just me. I don't want the risk of fogging up. I don't want the risk of, sorry, there's a bird above me. I don't want it to poop on me. There's the risk of fogging up the lens, and I'd rather not take that risk. So I did hop back into Dragon City Mall, and I discovered something really annoying, and that is my shoes squeak so loud when they're wet. You know, you're in there, you're trying to be more or less incognito. Yeah, you're trying to be incognito, and it's like, now I know I said low lighting was not going to work, and that's true. But there was a view from a window that I tried to capture with the ECN2 film early on, and I don't like the way it looked for a couple of different reasons. So that's what I was back for. I went inside, but I was actually shooting outside. So hopefully it works out this time. I didn't just come here for Chinatown today either, actually. The other thing that I wanted to accomplish was to be able to shoot the bridge, those bridge shots that I tried with the Berlin film, and they totally tanked. Not just because of me, partially because of me, but also because of the film. So that's where I'm headed off to now, is over to the Center Street Bridge and by the river, and hopefully I can get a better shot this time. This certainly gives an interesting perspective. See if I can get a shot through here, down the roadway. The only question is to include the mask or not to include the mask. Might be a little cliche at this point. So, that was fun, even though it was brisk. It was definitely a challenge, making sure that I wasn't just shooting the same things over and over again. I also tried to mix up my style a little bit, but it's really hard to run away from your style. My camera is super cold. It is really cold. I don't think I'm going to open it. I was going to open it and do the whole, well, nothing to do now but get this film developed. But it's cold enough where I think I'm going to bring it in and climatize it at least for a half an hour before I open the back. What'll happen if I don't? I don't know. That's why I'm not going to do it. So nothing to do now but get this camera home and get the film developed. Well, folks, here we are. New film, new washing cycle, new set of frayed nerves. Spoiler alert, though, and this is a spoiler for you and can't possibly be a spoiler for me yet. If you're seeing this, me washing this right now, the film turned out to some degree. Because if it's blank again, and I don't see why it would be, but if it's blank again like it was yesterday, well, I just wouldn't bother filming everything up until now. So I'm sure future me is very, very relieved. I have no idea how many times I inverted now. I'm just going to say I'm at 5. I know I did way more than 5, but whatever. I'm not going to overwash it. Man, oh man. What a ride this has been. In goes my last wash. Photo flow is sitting in the tank. I totally forgot to use my special photo flow container. Whatever, I'll just make sure and wash this separately. So while that's sitting, I'd like to give a shout out to Bryce. Bryce recently donated via PayPal And I just want to make sure that if he's watching, I appreciate the donation. Bryce, thank you so much. There are a few other people who also donated via PayPal recently, and I'll be sure and give them a shout out tomorrow. All right, I'm going to pour this out, spin it, and see what we got. Thank God. There are negatives on here, and they look good. I find the film a little purple, but I've seen that in other films before, so I'm not concerned. Sometimes it lightens up as it dries, sometimes not. It's fine. Fantastic. All I gotta do now is hang these up and wait for them to dry. No waiting for you. Here are today's highlights and my contact sheet. All right, folks, obviously today went a whole lot smoother. So nice to be able to pull negatives from a tank and have them all be displayed there in a nice, relative, normal state. I will say though that the emulsion itself seemed to be in the kind of pink area, and I've seen that before with Tri-X and other films, and it's never really posed a problem as far as exposure goes, at least not with the scanner. I'd imagine that it would add some time to the enlarger, and if I'm working it out correctly in my head, it would lower the contrast. But overall, it looks just fine. I hope you like the highlights. I certainly did. I chose a few more than I normally do, and I was able to go back to the bridge, and there was one shot I went back to. I did kind of the same composition and everything as I did with the Berlin film on day 2, and I still didn't like it. And sometimes I think what happens is your brain and heart see something and it just doesn't translate to camera. Maybe I need to go in a different weather situation. Maybe I need to go in a different time of day. Maybe I need to use a different kind of film. But whatever I'm seeing and feeling in that one spot is not translating onto film. It's not the same. And then I also got some shots from under the bridge, one of which turned out the way I wanted it to, and I'm happy about that as well. And then, yeah, just working out different angles, going to the same place knowing that it's going to be in black and white instead of color this time. Oh yeah, I almost forgot that other shot where I was inside the Dragon City Mall but shooting out towards the Bow Tower. That worked out really nice as well. I like how everything's kind of cut off funny. I like those lines shaping the shot and framing it and doing all sorts of neat things with the composition. It just worked out for me. If you weren't aware, this was the very first time I was able to shoot expired film that had been frozen. So I was able to shoot it at box speed, which is so cool. This film expired in December of 2008, which is 12 years ago. So not super duper expired. I probably only would have compensated by one stop anyway. But the beauty of it is that I didn't need to. This was frozen since new. And what a great treat that was. This was donated by Al. Al, thank you. And you guys should definitely thank Al too. I'll link his Instagram in the description. The guy donated 35 rolls of film, much of which has been frozen. Almost all of it's been discontinued in some form or another. And this batch of film is going to be responsible for a lot of content after this marathon's over. I'm super stoked about it. So what do I think of Neopan in general? I think it's fantastic. Assuming it's shooting exactly as if it was new with no degradation whatsoever. I found that the highlights were a little hard to recover. I found I got a ton of midtones and I was able to sort of punch it up to my liking, to my taste, add that contrast that I like to add, but not as much as I can with other films, but more than the Kodak XX, that's for sure. Yeah, that was my only thing, was that the highlights were a little unrecoverable compared to some films. If the highlights were white, let them be white. I still got rich midtones. I still got nice separation in the blacks. It was a very cool film, and I would shoot with it again, given the opportunity. Now, as far as tomorrow goes, I asked you guys what you'd like to see me shoot, HP5 at 3200 ISO or T-Max P3200. And there were a total of 211 votes. 105 for one, and 106 for the other. And by a vote of just one deciding vote factor, confession time, it was my vote, T-Max P3200 came out on top. Because total disclosure here, I checked the developing time for HP5 at 3200 ISO, and it was 38 minutes. I was like, I don't want to do that. That is crazy. That's crazy developing time. So I'm like, I get to vote when the presidents and when the politicians are all campaigning for themselves. They still get to vote for themselves. So I don't see it as a cheat. That is the most divisive you guys have been, though. That was so close. HP5 was up, then it evened out. Then T-Max was up a bit, then it evened out. And who knows where it would have ended up if it just kept going and going and going. Generally, when I'm getting ready in the morning, I close down the voting, and I voted and then closed it down, and that's where it ended up. So personally, I want to shoot with a film that I've never shot with before or rarely shot with. And I don't think that I've ever shot with T-Max P3200, but I've shot a whole bunch of HP5, not at 3200, mind you, but out of the two, the T-Max is the one I am not as familiar with. What am I going to shoot though? I guess you'll have to see the next episode. And until tomorrow, stay classic. I can hardly believe it.